Jax's revenge domain.
5 years of 60-hour weeks at a Houston construction firm. Never missed a safety deadline. Built every relationship from the ground up. Then on the morning I was set to approve the biggest project of my career, I got fired by someone who'd never worn a hard hat just because his last name matched the one on the building. What he didn't know, I was the only reason 28 major contractors stayed loyal, and he just activated his own demolition sequence. My name is Chuck Anderson, and at 48, I'd built my whole career around being the guy everyone called when they needed things done right. That Tuesday morning started like every other coffee at 6 Sun or site inspection. By 6:30, reviewing the Hudson Development high-rise project for what had to be the 30th time. 18 million, not our biggest build, but big enough that I'd personally walked it through 4 months of planning and permit approval. The email popped up at 9:23. Not from my direct supervisor, Carl, who was handling the downtown site inspections. From Brandon Hartwell. Please come to my office immediately. Brandon, 26 years old, Northwestern MBA, son of our founding partner. He'd been installed as operations director 8 weeks ago after what the company newsletter called an extensive leadership transition. The transition that somehow skipped every qualified candidate and landed on the boss's kid who'd spent the last 3 years consulting for tech startups in Austin. I saved my inspection notes, grabbed my hard hat from habit, and walked down to the corner office that used to belong to a foreman with 25 years of field experience. Brandon had redecorated. Gone were the project blueprints and safety certificates, replaced by motivational posters and a standing desk he'd ordered from some Silicon Valley catalog. He didn't look up when I knocked. Sit. The chair across from his desk was one of those low modern things. Brandon was scrolling through his tablet. Designer sneakers propped on the mahogany desk his father had imported from Italy. Chuck, he finally looked at me setting down his tablet. We need to discuss your trajectory here. Is there an issue with the Hudson project? I can walk you through the structural calculations again. It's not about any specific project. He leaned back, doing that triangle thing with his fingers they teach in business school. It's about modernization, operational efficiency, the direction we're taking the company. Modernization. I'd logged more safety-compliant hours than any other project manager for 3 consecutive years. My contractor retention rate was 96%. But sure, let's talk about efficiency. I'm not following. Look, you're competent. No one's saying you're not competent. The way he said competent made it sound like an insult. But Hartwell Construction is evolving. We need team players who understand innovation, optimization, people who think outside conventional frameworks. I wanted to mention that construction companies succeeded by thinking inside very specific safety codes and structural engineering principles. That's literally what clients paid us for. What are you saying, Brandon? Today is your last day. Security will escort you out after you sign this. He slid a packet across the desk. Non-disclosure agreement, non-compete clause, 3-month severance if I went quietly. You're firing me the week before Hudson breaks ground. Jessica will handle the transition. He checked his tablet again, already bored with ruining my life. Jessica. His girlfriend, the interior designer who'd started 6 weeks ago and still couldn't read a load-bearing diagram. I'd caught her using Pinterest to source inspiration for structural modifications. Jessica doesn't have an engineering license. She legally cannot approve structural changes. That's no longer your concern. His smile was all teeth, no warmth. You have 1 hour to clear out your office. And Chuck, the NDA is non-negotiable. You discuss any project details, any proprietary information. We'll bury you in litigation. Dad's firm has very deep pockets. I stood up, keeping my face neutral. 5 years. 5 years of skipped vacations, working through pneumonia, building relationships with 28 contractors and developers who trusted me with their million-dollar problems. 5 years of creating systems, safety protocols, and inspection processes that this company ran on. My name wasn't on any building, but my fingerprints were on every successful project. 1 hour, Brandon repeated, already typing on his tablet. Leave your access card with security. I walked back to my office in a daze. Through the glass walls, I could see my colleagues avoiding eye contact. Word traveled fast in construction firms. I was radioactive now. 1 hour to pack up 5 years. I pulled out my personal laptop, the one I'd used for weekend work when the company's systems crashed. My personal phone, the number I'd given to contractors who needed emergency consultation, my handwritten notes, my reference manuals, my coffee mug that said "World's Most Structural Engineer." What they couldn't pack into a box were the relationships I'd built, the personal cell numbers saved in my phone, the trust earned through countless hours of meticulous safety compliance, the reputation for delivering on time, under budget, with 0 incidents. As security watched me fill a banker's box, I thought about Hudson Development, about how their CEO, Patricia Hudson, had specifically requested me after I'd saved them from a catastrophic foundation issue 2 years ago, about how she'd invited me to her company's anniversary celebration, about how she had no idea that tomorrow her $18 million project would be overseen by someone who thought rebar was just decorative metal stuff. I signed the papers, took my box, handed over my access card. But as I walked out of Hartwell Construction for the last time, past the marble lobby and the commissioned photos of 3 generations of Hartwell projects, I wasn't thinking about what I'd lost. I was thinking about what they'd forgotten I still had. I sat in my home office at 2:30, still wearing my work clothes, staring at that banker's box like it might explain what just happened. The house was quiet, too quiet for a Tuesday afternoon. I should have been at the Hudson pre-construction meeting right now, walking Patricia through the final safety protocols. Instead, I was unemployed. I opened my laptop and started making a list. What did I actually own versus what Hartwell Construction thought they owned? First, the documentation. Over 5 years, I'd built a complete system of project templates, safety checklists, and risk assessment frameworks. The company never asked me to upload these to their servers, probably because nobody there understood what they were worth. They sat in my personal cloud storage organized the way I liked them, my work, created on my own time, improved through hundreds of successful projects. Second, the contacts. I pulled out my personal phone and scrolled through the numbers. Patricia Hudson, Steve Martinez from Pinnacle Construction, Kevin Foster at Superior Building, 28 contractors, developers, and site supervisors who had my direct line, because calling Hartwell's main number meant waiting 2 days for a callback. These weren't just business cards from industry events. These were people who texted me photos of their kids, asked for restaurant recommendations when visiting Houston, trusted me with their project secrets because I'd proven myself through years of 3 a.m. emergency calls and weekend crisis management. Third, the knowledge. I opened a spreadsheet and started listing every active project, every pending inspection, every contractor preference I'd learned over the years. Martinez Construction needed all concrete pours scheduled before 10 a.m. minus their crew worked best in cooler temperatures. Superior Building required triple redundancy on all electrical specs because their insurance demanded it. Hudson Development had a liability clause in their contractor agreements that I'd discovered and quietly fixed in 12 different projects, details that weren't in any file. Context that couldn't be handed over in a 1-hour transition meeting with someone who thought structural engineering meant making buildings look pretty. My phone buzzed. Carl, my former supervisor, heard what happened. Can't believe it. Brandon says Jessica's taking over your projects. God help us all. I didn't text back. The NDA was vague about personal communications, and I wasn't taking any chances, but Carl's message told me what I already suspected. Panic was setting in over there. I pulled up the Texas construction industry website. The non-compete clause Brandon made me sign was 18 months. But non-competes in Texas were tough to enforce, especially when the firing was without cause, especially when you could prove the termination was handled in bad faith. Getting fired to make room for the boss's unqualified girlfriend? Yeah, that might qualify. I made 2 lists. What I couldn't do, solicit Hartwell's contractors directly share confidential project information, trash talk the company publicly. What I could do, maintain personal friendships, work as an independent consultant, share my own work, respond if people contacted me. The difference mattered. I couldn't reach out to Patricia Hudson about the high-rise project, but if Patricia Hudson reached out to me, that was a different story. By 500, I'd turned my garage workshop into command central. 5 years of knowledge spread across my workbench, not project files. Those belonged to Hartwell, but my personal notes, my systems, my frameworks. The infrastructure I'd built that made me good at what I did. I created a new email address, C. Anderson Consulting, not a competing firm. Just a professional presence. Updated my LinkedIn to independent construction consultant. No mention of Hartwell Construction, no violation of any agreement. Then I waited. The first text came at 6:17, Patricia Hudson. Chuck, the new project manager, just asked me what load-bearing capacity means. Please tell me this is a joke. I stared at the message. Technically, talking about the Hudson project would violate the NDA, but expressing sympathy for a friend's frustration. I'm no longer with Hartwell Construction as of today. I hope your project proceeds safely. Her response was immediate. What? Call me now. I'm bound by certain agreements. I can't discuss specifics. Can you discuss anything over coffee as friends? I smiled for the first time all day. As friends always. By 800, I'd gotten similar messages from 4 other contractors. Word moved fast in Houston's construction community. Each response I sent made it clear I was gone, I was restricted. But I was still around. Brandon Hartwell thought he'd removed a replaceable part from his machine. He'd probably sent emails to the staff about new directions and streamlined processes, written by the same design software Jessica used for structural modifications. But modern project management wasn't about the company's name on the hard hats. It was about the 4 a.m. safety calls, the weekend emergency inspections, the trusted voice on the other end of the line who actually knew what load-bearing capacity meant. They had the building, the letterhead, the marble lobby. I had everything else. 3 days later, I sat across from Roger Morrison in a conference room that smelled like sawdust and honest work. Morrison Engineering Group was 4 blocks from Hartwell Construction, close enough to share the same supply vendors, far enough to maintain professional distance. Chuck Anderson. Roger leaned back in his chair, looking at me over his reading glasses. I've been wondering when you'd finally leave that circus. I'd reached out to Roger through a mutual contact, carefully framing it, not job-seeking, that might violate my agreements. Just 2 construction professionals discussing the market over coffee. Moving from the diner to his office was his idea. I'm exploring my options, I said carefully. Consulting work, maybe independent projects, independent work. He smiled. With your contractor relationships. I maintain personal friendships with many Houston builders. Those friendships don't depend on my employment status. Roger was 63, had built his firm from nothing, and understood exactly what I wasn't saying. Morrison Engineering had 12 project managers to Hartwell's 45, but they'd survived 30 years by being smart, not big. Hypothetically, he said, if Morrison Engineering were to bring on an independent consultant, not an employee, mind you, someone with extensive project experience and established relationships, how might that work? Hypothetically, such an arrangement would need to respect any existing agreements the consultant might have. No direct solicitation, no sharing of proprietary information. But if contractors were to independently seek out that consultant's services, they'd need representation. They'd need options. Roger poured himself coffee from a steel thermos. Brandon Hartwell called me yesterday, warned me about a former employee who might try to violate his non-compete, suggested any firm that helped him would face litigation. My stomach dropped. I told him Morrison Engineering doesn't respond well to threats, especially empty ones from kids playing dress-up in their daddy's offices. That got my attention. What did he say? He hung up on me. Roger grinned. Bad move. I've been in this business longer than he's been alive. Here's what I propose. Morrison brings you on as an independent consultant, not an employee that keeps you clear of the non-compete. You work on your own matters, build your own practice. We provide infrastructure, liability coverage, and most importantly, legal protection if Hartwell decides to get nasty. What's your cut? 35% of billings. That's high, I know, but it includes full litigation support if they come after you. And trust me, they will. 35% was steep. At Hartwell, I'd kept nothing beyond my salary, but 35% of something beat 100% of nothing. I need to think about it, of course. But Chuck, don't think too long. Brandon Hartwell is young, stupid, and scared. That's a dangerous combination. I left Morrison Engineering at 4:45 with Roger's offer in writing. As I waited for the elevator, my phone started buzzing. 3 texts in a row. Patricia Hudson. Foundation inspection failed. New project manager missed critical structural requirements. Board is furious. Steve Martinez. Chuck, can we talk? Urgent issue with the downtown project. Kevin Foster. Please tell me you're still working somewhere. And one from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Anderson, I'm development director at Apex Industries. Patricia Hudson suggested I reach out. Are you taking new clients? Apex Industries, $50 million in annual construction projects, never a Hartwell client. I sat in my truck in the parking garage, engine off, staring at these messages. The smart play was to wait. Let the non-compete period pass. Start fresh in 18 months. Play it safe, but I kept thinking about Patricia's text. Foundation inspection failed. An $18 million project I'd spent 4 months perfecting destroyed in 3 days by someone who couldn't tell the difference between rebar and decorative trim. I called Roger Morrison. That was fast, he answered. I accept with conditions. I won't solicit any Hartwell contractors, but if they come to me, I'll represent them. If Hartwell wants a fight, they better bring more than daddy's money and empty threats. Welcome to Morrison Engineering, partner. Can you start Monday? I can start now. I have 3 friends who need construction consultation and 1 potential new client who's never worked with Hartwell. Roger laughed. I like you already. Come back tomorrow. We'll get you set up, and Chuck document everything. Every text, every call, every contractor who reaches out. We're gonna need it. I hung up and posted a simple LinkedIn update. Pleased to announce I'm now consulting with Morrison Engineering Group. Looking forward to new challenges and continued relationships. Professional, vague, completely within my rights. Within an hour, I had 27 reactions and 8 private messages. Word spread fast in construction circles, faster when people were desperate. I didn't respond to any from current Hartwell contractors, not yet, but I did respond to Apex Industries, scheduling a meeting for Friday. My phone rang. Unknown number. Houston area code. Chuck. Thank God. Patricia Hudson's voice sounded strained. I know you can't talk about Hartwell business. I'm not calling about that. I'm calling because Apex Industries needs project management help. And I told them you're the best in Houston. That's just friendly advice between friends, right? Just friendly advice. I agreed. Good, because I'd hate to think my recommendation would cause you problems, especially since, as a friend, I might mention your name to a few other developers who've been complaining about their current project management. We both knew what she was really saying. I appreciate your friendship, Patricia. Likewise, and Chuck, Brandon Hartwell's an idiot. That's not business talk. That's just one friend to another. She hung up before I could respond. I sat in my truck as the garage lights came on, watching the sun set through the concrete levels. 3 days ago, I'd been fired for lacking operational efficiency. Now I had a new firm, legal protection, and contractors literally creating opportunities to work with me without violating any agreements. Brandon Hartwell had wanted innovation and optimization. He was about to get it. The dominoes started falling exactly 1 week later. Patricia's foundation inspection failure made the industry newsletter. Steve Martinez's downtown project hit a structural snag that shut down construction for safety violations. Kevin Foster's crew discovered electrical code issues that Jessica had approved despite clear violations. Word got around fast. When contractors started asking questions about Hartwell's new management, the answers weren't good. Projects were behind schedule. Safety protocols were being ignored. Costs were escalating because basic engineering principles were being treated as suggestions. By Friday, Morrison Engineering had taken on 3 emergency consultation projects, all from contractors who'd independently decided their current project management wasn't meeting industry standards. Brandon tried to fight back, called emergency meetings, threatened lawsuits, even had his father fly back from retirement to handle the situation. But you can't threaten physics, can't intimidate structural engineering, can't negotiate with safety codes. The cracks were showing, and they were getting bigger every day. Within 30 days, 19 of Hartwell's 28 major contractors had quietly moved their projects to other firms. Most ended up at Morrison Engineering, working with a consultant who understood that buildings needed to stay standing. The breaking point came on a Thursday morning. I was reviewing structural specs for the Apex Industries warehouse when my phone rang. Carl, my old supervisor, Chuck, you need to see this. Turn on Channel 11 News. Now, I grabbed the remote. The anchor was mid-sentence about a construction accident downtown. The camera showed the Hartwell construction site where I used to work. Emergency vehicles everywhere. Workers being evacuated. Preliminary reports indicate a partial structural collapse during concrete pour operations. No injuries reported, but OSHA has shut down the site pending a full investigation. This is the 3rd safety violation for Hartwell construction in the past month. My phone started ringing nonstop, contractors, developers, even reporters who'd somehow gotten my number. Everyone wanted to know the same thing: what the hell was happening at Hartwell Construction. I didn't take any of those calls, but I did watch the news coverage all day. By evening, they were running the story every hour. The accident had happened because Jessica approved a concrete pour without proper curing time. Basic stuff. Engineering 101. The next morning, Brandon called an emergency all-hands meeting. I know because Steve Martinez texted me from the parking lot. Kids losing it, screaming at everyone, blaming the workers, the weather, bad luck. Everything except the real problem. Edward Hartwell, Brandon's father, flew back from Florida that weekend, too late. The damage was done. Monday brought the lawsuit. Martinez Construction filed a $3 million claim against Hartwell for project delays caused by safety violations. Tuesday, Superior Building followed with their own lawsuit. By Friday, 6 contractors were suing Hartwell for various forms of negligence and project mismanagement. Roger Morrison called me into his office. Hartwell's lawyers want to meet. They're claiming you're orchestrating this whole thing, am I? That's what I asked them. They couldn't point to a single violation of your non-compete. No solicitation, no confidential information shared, no direct interference. Just good contractors making smart business decisions. The meeting was held at a downtown law office, neutral ground. Edward Hartwell looked like he'd aged 10 years in 2 months. Brandon wasn't there, probably hiding under his standing desk. This has to stop, Edward said, without preamble. You're destroying everything I built. I'm not destroying anything, I replied. I'm just working. Your son's the one who decided safety protocols were optional. Brandon made mistakes, I admit that. But this vendetta, there's no vendetta. There are consequences. You hired someone unqualified to manage million-dollar projects. She approved unsafe construction practices. Workers could have been killed. Roger leaned forward. Mr. Hartwell, if you're looking for someone to blame, start with the mirror. You left your company in the hands of a 26-year-old with no field experience and his girlfriend who thinks concrete is just gray paint. Edward's lawyer tried to interrupt, but the old man waved him off. What would it take to make this go away? Nothing, I said, because there's nothing to make go away. Your contractors are leaving because they don't trust your management. Your projects are failing because your people don't know what they're doing. This isn't revenge. This is reality. Edward stared at me for a long moment. Then he stood up, shook his head, and walked out. 3 months later, Hartwell Construction filed for bankruptcy. The company that had built Houston skyscrapers for 40 years was gone. Edward sold the building to pay off debts. Last I heard, Jessica was working at a furniture store. As for me, I'm sitting in my corner office at Morrison Engineering, watching the Houston skyline through windows that look out over the construction site where Hartwell used to operate. The space has been converted to affordable housing, ironically built to safety standards I helped develop. My assistant knocked. "Mr. Anderson, your 400 is here. Send them in." It was a young engineer fresh out of college looking for mentorship advice. Reminded me of myself 25 years ago, eager, hardworking, maybe a little naive about how the business world really worked. We talked for an hour about project management, safety protocols, the importance of building relationships based on trust and competence. When he left, he thanked me for my time. One more thing, I called after him. Remember this, your reputation is the only thing you really own in this business. Guard it like your life depends on it, because it does. The kid nodded and headed out, probably thinking about load-bearing calculations and permit applications. He'd learned the harder lesson soon enough. I don't feel bad about what happened. Edward Hartwell built something good, and his son destroyed it. I just refused to go down with the ship. Word spread fast through Houston's construction community. Firms started auditing their own management structures. 2 CEOs I know quietly removed family members from operational roles. Nobody said my name out loud. They didn't have to. Brandon landed at his uncle's insurance agency. Jessica's design blog lasted 3 months. The old Hartwell building is affordable housing now, built to safety standards I helped write. The best revenge isn't what you do to your enemies. It's what you build after they're gone. Look, I'm curious about something. You're here listening to this story about corporate politics and workplace betrayal, and I'm wondering, where are you right now? Are you at your desk, thinking about your own boss? Maybe you're driving, remembering some idiot manager who thought credentials mattered more than competence? Here's what I've learned in 25 years of construction work. Merit wins. It might not win today or next month, but it wins eventually. The Brandon Hartwells of the world always reveal themselves. The question is, when they do, are you ready? Have you built the relationships, developed the skills, earned the trust that lets you walk away with your head high? Drop a comment and tell me about a time someone underestimated you. I'd like to hear how that worked out for them.